Hi, everybody, and welcome to my channel. For those of you that have never been here before, my name is Jackie, and I am 66 and a half years old, retiree, trying to teach myself how to live on a much stricter budget than I lived on when I wasn't retired. And I am just now finally starting to have a little bit of success with that. I'm also on a journey to improve my health, and I've gone into that on other videos. And then I'm also on a journey to kind of decorate my little casita mini apartment, rearrange things, organize it. And it's been a slow process because everything's heavy and I can't lift things like I used to. But it's getting there. It is getting there. And when I finally get that all done, I will show it to you. Right now, there's nothing on the walls, nothing. So I'm in the process of creating things for my walls rather than buying them. And so it'll be a slow go because I'm a slow maker. And then I also just kind of just life in general, what's going on, talk about some of my hobbies and different things like that. So I hope you'll join me. But a big thing that we will be talking about is the budgeting. So the budgeting, the improvements on my healthy lifestyle, and also how I am working to take my spiritual life to another level. So we'll talk about all of that. And one thing we do not discuss on this channel is politics. Um, I don't. I will just delete even sly comments that are about politics. If you want to join me in my coffee and stay a while, grab yourself something of your favorite beverage and sit down and join me. Right now here it's about 8:30 in the morning, and it's slightly chilly outside, but I'm not having to use any heat. It's a beautiful spring day. It's the last week of March 2025, and it's still too early to put in a garden here in Amarillo. Uh, so that's how the weather is. I wanted to talk a little bit today, though, not so much about the weather right now, but uh, something that's going on in many of us as seniors' lives is having, and it's really hitting me hard right now, um, is having difficulty accepting and accommodating ourselves to changes as we age, in our lives and in our bodies and in social things going on around us, familial relationships, all these different things that change. Um, Maybe even expectations were part of what was going on in your life. I have had a difficult time adapting. When I first retired, I actually retired a few years early, um, took Social Security as soon as I was eligible for it, because I wanted to do some long distance hiking. And I knew that my body was changing already and aging. I mean, I was 62 and I wanted to do some hikes that were multi months, way over 2,000 miles. One of them was like 2,500. And, you know, I wanted to become a hiking triple crowner. I had gotten into hiking rather late in my life, and it was vastly improving my health. But yet, at the same token, my body was still aging. I still had some a chronic autoimmune issue and some things. And, you know, I knew that I needed to do this if I was going to do it. So I went ahead and retired at age 62 as soon as I was able to, with the intention of going and doing those hikes. Well, the very first thing that happened was, of course, the pandemic and the big C. But not, to say the least, we did find out that I had it, and it kind of left me with a chronic cough. But really, that's it. And then I had a little bit of a deterioration each time I took one of the jabs. Affected my joints and everything, and took me to another level of in the progression of the problems that I have, and it never went back to baseline. So, but I was still able to hike. I did not know why I was exhausted all the time and why my hiking just got slower and slower and slower. I knew that I felt so much better, though, than I had the year before, because I had had some gallbladder problems and had my gallbladder taken out, and it made me feel so much better that the other issues that I was having just didn't connect with me. And I was just like, man, I feel better. And I was working for the nonprofits in the national parks and hiking, walking, doing all that. I just laughed about the fact I was so slow, and I did get fatigued. The end of the day, I was wiped. Didn't want to do anything. Didn't want to make dinner. Just always opening up a can, I didn't want to do anything but relax with my pup. And then when bedtime came, go to bed. Just have a relaxing evening and go to bed. And I was living in my camper van, working in the national parks. And for the nonprofit, I mean, I wasn't a volunteer, I was paid. Um, it, but hiking, and I was losing weight like crazy. And I wasn't even trying. To the point it kind of scared me a little bit. I thought something wrong with me, but nah, I figured out I can gain the weight pretty easy. But anyway, and but the Big C messed up being able to do those big hikes that I wanted to do. It dream of mine. In that 1 year, the 2020 season was lost. They said, if you go out on the trails now, you're not going to get credit for it. We want you off the trail. Why, I don't know. And let me explain why I say that. You're in the least danger to anybody when you're out there on that trail. Now, some of the hikers do congregate in the evenings. But, there were hikers that disobeyed the rule and went out there and hiked them anyway. And just aren't going to get any kind of official certificate that they did it. And even when I was fully retired, I came on home here to be near my family, and I ended up getting an apartment. And in the process of that, just started spending tons of money. And spent to the point that I got myself from a debt-free situation, other than my camper payment, to a mess. The things that I'm learning about making changes, though, as you retire, because let's talk about physical limitations. For me, the biggest change, though, to my physical limitations was one of the reasons I found out later that I was so fatigued is I'm having trouble keeping my iron up despite taking iron pills. And even just working outside, being outside a lot, hiking, I really wasn't in the sun that much, I don't guess. I don't know, and I would cover up. But I wasn't being consistent about taking some supplements I was supposed to be on. And my vitamin D levels doctors told me it was the lowest they had ever seen on vitamin D3 levels. And then I was very anemic to the point I had to get transfusions and iron, infused stuff like that. And those levels are still low. I take the pills now, and my body's just, it's one of those things. It's not wanting to absorb it for some reason. And I do have a malabsorption issue, but it's just, as I've aged, it's just like a lot of things that happen to your body. And so that fatigue was because my iron, and I was so anemic. And but I would just joke about it and call myself the world's slowest hiker when I would be walking with people. I just did. And to the point nobody wanted to hike with me because that's how slow I was. And I'm still going to be probably the world's slowest hiker if I ever get to do it again. And I'll talk about why, but I did manage to get to Spain for the Camino de Santiago, which was one of my hikes that was on my bucket list. Tons of hikes, by the way, on my bucket list, but I mean, there were 4 major hikes that I wanted to do. And actually, I wanted to do a longer version of the Camino de Santiago than what I actually went to do. Um, but because it was just not going to be cost effective to do it that way, I didn't do it. But I did do the regular work on doing the. I went I flew into France with met a friend of mine in Madrid. We went to Madrid, Spain. We had a wonderful time in Madrid, by the way. Ate a lot of seafood, Spanish style seafood, and I had never eaten some of that stuff. It was an experiment for me, and I'm proud of myself. I ate them and actually enjoyed them. But I did not enjoy the squid, the octopus tentacles. Thanks. That I did not like it. Uh yeah, but I cut the suction cups off and put those aside and then ate the very core of it, and that's all. And it was just like chewing a piece of rubber to me. I was like, why this costs so much compared to the rest of the food we've eaten here, and it's like rubber. And someone told me later on that there were parts of the country where the food was that particular food was much better, but I never really wanted to eat that in the first place, and I said I'm going to try it at least once in my life, and as far as I'm concerned, still to this day, that was my once in my life. No more. Anyway, but we got into the hike, and I honestly, I'd have to ask the friend that I went with. I don't know how many miles in we were. The miles, but sometimes I say we were 120 miles in, sometimes I say we're 150 miles in, which when you're walking, that is a big difference. So I'm not really sure. Somewhere in that range. And I had to quit. And I don't know if the friend that I was with there realized how devastated I was over that or not. I ended up with injuries and had to come home. And so we'll just kind of leave it at that for the purpose of this video. And he actually had to get through the airports with wheelchairs. So that's how bad it was. That's how much pain I was in. And it did gradually get better once I got home. I had to have medical intervention, which there's not too much sense going through the details of that right now. And I vowed to go back the next fall, or spring or fall. Well, not that I got home in October. Maybe it wasn't even, I got home the very beginning of November. But within a couple weeks of getting home, had a virus go through on and I did get tested for the big C. That was negative, and I didn't never get tested for anything else. I just went and I used one of the home tests, and it was negative. And I also knew that my brother had tested positive for flu A. So I've got flu A. And I still feel like that's what I had. But, I told you that when I had the big C, very, very beginning of the pandemic, that I got left with this kind of a chronic cough. And I was already dealing with this anemia and everything going on. And what started to happen to me was I never fully recovered from that flu. I mean, months later, I'm going to the doctor. I just can't recover from this flu. That flu I had. And it progressed over the past like 18 months. It just progressively got worse and worse and worse, to the point that I was having shortness of breath. I couldn't put my head down at night to sleep. And they'd given me a nebulizer one of the times I had gone to the doctor, with multiple boxes of the medication that goes with it. And I was having to use that with fair frequency. And I said, something is wrong. I don't know. and I went to the doctor, and so they finally sent me in for a pulmonary function test, and I end up getting diagnosed with COPD, which they told me, I think my record just says COPD, but they told me it was probably post-COVID COPD, and the doctor even said he doesn't know, considering when I told him what happened to me with the jabs, whether it was from the virus, because or a combination of everything. But anyway, so I got diagnosed with that several months ago, finally, and have been put on some medication that has dramatically improved things. It doesn't take it away. It's not going to take it away totally. But it has dramatically improved. I had a hard time adjusting to the changes. I kept saying, I'm just going to go back to work. And I just don't feel well enough to go back to work. Because I wanted to supplement my income, and I want to do this debt snowball thing. But my fatigue levels are just still not good. And I do go back to the doctor on the 31st of March, but and I'm like, okay, so how can I live on this income that I have, which is better than a lot of people on pensions and Social Security get? Because I was a workaholic. And so I have that is benefiting me to a certain extent now. But during that time, right after I retired, that I told you about, I developed a lot of bills. And then I had some bad advice. And I also ended up with a rather large Internal Revenue Service debt. So I've had a hard time adjusting to the fact that I'm not going to be doing things the way that I always did it. And physically, things have changed. I think I'm still going to be able to get back to some hiking, but I think I've got to get the weight that I've gained off. I think that is part of my fatigue. I think that has made my fatigue a lot worse. And over the past, since I got back from Spain, so that would be like a year and a half now, I think I've gained about little over 60 pounds. So I've had to accept that just taking a shower is very tiring for me. So for me, this has been a difficult adjustment, that I'm not going to get to do things the way I'd planned on doing them. So not only physically the changes and the emotional changes with not being as you age, but the emotional changes with not being able to do the things that you wanted to do. So if there's emotional changes that get to you, there are physical changes. And the other thing that's a big change for me is I wasn't married all that long, and then I didn't have any children. And I worked away from my brothers and sisters, my siblings. My mother and father are both gone. And I lived away from all of my siblings most of my adult life. I moved away, and they were still kids. Other than my sister, she was 2 years behind me, and she was married having kids. So I just didn't. And so my associates were primarily people that I met along the way, people that and when I retired, I moved away to be near my family. And I think I had a lot of higher expectations than what it should have had, because they have kind of moved on with their lives while I've lived away, and their relationships that they have developed are with other people. They're not necessarily with, yeah. I think I just had unrealistic expectations. So I think for a lot of seniors, that's an issue. Loneliness. Their family is off doing things, and the younger people are off doing younger people things. And the people your own age, your brothers and sisters, they've all got kids, grandkids. It keeps their lives very, very busy. And so it's really difficult for you to fit in, especially if you've been gone for a while, and if you're single and you don't really have anyone. And like I say, I wasn't married for all that long. I had some physical issues in my body where I was never able to really have children, or my ability to have children stopped when I was like in my mid-30s. So I never really had any children, and plus I was a workaholic. And I worked all the time. And so some of my own actions are the results I'm seeing now in my life. And I fear for a lot of Americans in the future, because a lot of us as women have foregone family relationships. And it kind of scares me, because especially as I'm facing the consequences of living that now. I really wish I had done things differently. I wish I had lived life, worked in order to live life, that I didn't live life in order to work, because I did. I lived life to work. I was raised with a very strong work ethic, and that's how I lived. And I never really budgeted my money well. If I wanted something, I went up and got it. If my bill was late getting paid, I didn't care. I'll pay it. Here it is, you know. And I did pay it. I just didn't necessarily remember to pay it when it was supposed to. I was real haphazard about it. And I still had a really good credit rating. I had worked to keep everything paid up. And so that when I was retired, I had a very good credit rating, excellent credit rating. I had no money really saved other than what was in my 401k. And there's a long story to that 401k and how it got to be that way. But there were several big financial falls in our country that happened like around 2008 through 2010, somewhere in that range, that just depleted. And then some other issues that happened and just depleted my savings, anything that I had. And that happened to a lot of Americans too, by the way, that when that whole housing market crash happened and all of that. And I admit I got sarcastic about it and didn't really do a lot to recover from it. And so for me, the emotional, the physical, the social and familial issues, and the financial issues, and the expectations of what I was going to do in my retirement, none of it has gone like I planned for it to go. And so it's been pretty rough on me. So right now I'm trying to look at a way to adjust my life. And I don't think I'm going to talk about all those different categories today, but just suffice it to say that I know that as a senior, I am not the only one that is going through these types of things. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to do this vlog, to hold some accountability on the health and the budgeting issues and things like that, but also to see, I know that there's other seniors going through this and these same types of issues, and maybe we can just all work together, and because this is one way for us to communicate, is here on these, on YouTube. But anyway, so those are kinds of things that I want to talk about here on this channel. And so today, I think I'm going to kind of just talk about my upcoming budget preparations for next month, and also kind of what's going on with my diet, and then we'll be done with that. And I hope this has been a little bit interesting. I'm going to go through and edit and hopefully cut out some stuff that's a waste of your time. But I hope that I was able to communicate exactly what my purpose of this vlog is and what's on my heart and why I'm doing it. I want to talk about right now my improvement, dietary part of improving my health life. For some years, I was plant-based eater. I ate vegan. I did not do it for any ethical reasons or anything like that. I ate plant-based for a while. I didn't really lose a lot of weight eating plant-based because I'm a grazer, and grazing on things that are real starchy and different things like that are not the best for you. And a lot of plant-based eating, the proteins, have, their starch. And so you have to eat healthfully. Now, I will say my labs, when I was eating that way, were the best they had ever been, because I did concentrate on making certain I got all my nutrients in, because I did have a fear of that. And I think because of the fact that I did concentrate on that, I felt great. And I was losing weight. It was just ultra. I mean, it was probably over several years later, and it might have been 10, 15 pounds, that kind of a deal. And my weight was still fluctuate. And usually that had to do with my activity level. But I felt great. Now, would I go back to being vegan, whatever you want to call it again? No. But I can see myself eating that way a majority of the time. And when I feel like eating, eggs or meat or whatever, I'll eat it. Because I don't really tolerate, with my stomach issues that I have, I have that malabsorption issue that I told you about. And my stomach doesn't like it necessarily. It doesn't, it's just, my tongue loves it. And what got me started eating meat again was barbecue. I just always loved smoked meats and barbecue. And I got back home to Texas after I retired. And just a couple months, and there I was back to eating all that again. And just kind of progressed from there to eating processed things that, So what I'm trying to do right now is I am on a fixed income. I have a very well-stocked pantry. So I'm not going to be able to just say I can't eat this food because of this fixed income. So for right now, I'm totally focusing on portion control and not grazing and not eating in between meals, that kind of thing. And then as this food is gone, I'll replace it with healthier things. And like I said, if I want meat, I'm going to eat it. I'll probably always have a bit of hamburger in my freezer. I'll probably always have a little chicken, in the freezer in case I want to eat something like that. If I want to go out with a family or friend and they say we're going to go to such and such steakhouse, and I get there and the steak is really what sounds good, I'm going to eat it. If an omelet sounds good. Now, the main time that I eat omelets and things like that is when I travel. But I'm just saying, I don't think I'll ever be able to lay claim to being vegan or even vegetarian. But I will be able to say that maybe that's what they call a flexitarian. I don't know. But I will say that I'm going to have the focus of my diet more on plants, and the meat more as a seasoning or kind of an afterthought. Once my diet is where it's going to be. Right now, it's going to be one of the 3 or 4 food groups that are going to be on my plate. Because I've got a freezer full of meat. I've also got a cabinet full of processed quick things, like a bunch of Knorr rice mixes and pasta salad, processed pre-boxed foods. that I got because they were on sale and they were cheap, to be honest. And that way you don't have to buy all the ingredients that go in them, you know? And that, for me, was saving me a lot of money. So that's what I've decided to do as I use it all up. But I'm going to go ahead and start what I ate in a day. And it'll always be a day behind because I like to do this filming in the morning. So what I ate yesterday was I ate 3 meals. 2 of them were planned and the other one was kind of a last minute toss in. And I'll explain that as we go. I have pictures of 2 of them. This first one that should pop up here. At the top on your screen now. It was just my breakfast yesterday. It was some yogurt and probably wasn't well portion controlled in that it pretty much, I think probably I should have had a little bit less of the yogurt in there. I don't mind eating all the fruit, and the yogurt, I don't feel like, because the fruit does not have any sugar added to it. There's the natural sugars that are in it, but and that was going to be my fruit for the day anyway. So, but what I had was some yogurt, and it's that 000 yogurt from Oikos, I believe. Low sugar, low fat. I never thought I would eat a low-fat dairy again. I just don't like it. I think they're more concentrated in sugars. But this one, the sugar content in it is low, and so I thought, oh, then it's going to taste bad, It was delicious. It's delicious yogurt, actually. And so I get some of that. I put it in a bowl, then I put on, and I'm about to eat breakfast now, and so that's what I'm going to have this morning as well. So, and then I put some fruit on there, and then some granola. So then, excuse me, please. And then what I had planned to be my last meal of the day. And no, I'm not trying to do any kind of intermittent fasting. That's just how my appetite is actually starting to change, kind of naturally. I loaded the same amount of food on top of the paper plate. So it's really piled on there. But if you look at the size of the spoon that's on the plate, you'll see that it's a small plate. And you're going to notice it's covered with black pepper. I quit eating added salt on my food some years ago because I end up cooking with enough salt to add salt at a table. And my tongue got used to the less salt. I think that's one of the reasons I'm not enjoying these Knorr sides. They taste incredibly salty to me. But I'm going to eat them and get rid of them. And you're going to see cheese. I made the cheese and broccoli yesterday, and then I had pork chop. And then some leftover mixed greens, turnip greens, collard greens, that kind of thing, that needed to be eaten up. They were in the fridge, and I needed to eat them. And then I also had in my freezer, I call it the heel of a piece of a loaf of French bread. We always called that end bit a heel. So I just made myself a piece of toast with that because it needed to be eaten, and it would taste okay because it was not fresh as a toast. And so that's what I had. So there was double carbs with the bread and the rice. Plus, you'll see the rice serving in this picture here. Is pretty good size serving. And then I had the unexpected meal, which between the luncheon that I had, which would have been my main meal of the day, that was high in calories there. And then my brother had made a barbecued brisket the day before. And because he had some out of town family here, and I had been invited over there for brisket with them, and I had eaten brisket at their house the day before. And he called me last evening. He says, he likes to make egg rolls, barbecue brisket egg rolls. And they're different from your regular Asian style egg rolls. The only thing that you can say is the same is the fact that they are in an egg roll wrapper, and they're deep fried. Uh, and I went over there, and he said, Jackie, we're making brisket egg rolls. You want to come over for dinner? Well, this was only about 3, maybe 4 hours after I ate my late lunch. But I said, oh yeah, I have to have one of these. Well, I went over and I ended up eating 2 of them and some fried rice. That's what they had on the side. And was way over full by the time I got back, to the point I was miserable for the rest of the evening, because I'm not used to eating 2 big meals like that in a day, for one thing. And the amount of calories that I had yesterday had to be tremendous between the 2. So 2 meals. But nonetheless, I'm just going to be honest about it. Here is, I don't have a picture of the egg rolls, but they were 2 gigantic egg rolls with brisket, onion. I think there might have been some cheese in there, and some green chili. So it was like a deep fried burrito, brisket burrito, only made in an egg roll wrapper. They're really good. And then we dipped them in various sauces that we had a choice of. It was like a sauce bar there. And so it was really good. So anyway, so that's what I had to eat yesterday. Do I have any regrets? Yeah, I wish I hadn't eaten so much. But yet, on the same token, I'm not going to worry about it, So I'll show you what I eat in a day today with tomorrow's vlog. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was budgeting. And I had put up a video with my new budgeting system that's going to take place April the 1st. And of course, everything has changed in that, one, if you remember, I've made up a bunch of envelopes and just going to put them in here. Well, I got to thinking about it. That's stupid. This thing has already kind of like built-in envelopes. Why did I need to put another envelope inside of there? That's wasteful, and plus it was a hassle. They were tearing up. And then I have already had to redo the entire year's budget. And now I'm already going to have to redo April's budget. So what I've decided to do is keep this, because I do call it a budget proposal. You can see on there. This is my budget proposal for April. And but the other day I was driving and I had to avoid an animal. What happened was the animal ran in front of another car. That car had to squeal and put on its brakes, and then it dashed across me. And when that happened, there was kind of a high curb there. And when I hit the curb, there must have been something sharp on that curb or something, because it put a hole in my tire. Now, the tire is not leaking air at all, but there's a hole in there. It will at some point, because there's a hole in there and you can see the band. I don't know what you call that, the steel belt that's in the tire, the belt in the tire. Yeah, it's got to be replaced. And it's not in the, it's on the sidewall of the tire, so that can't be repaired. So I've got to take it in, and so that has to happen. And plus, I have now some new expenses have crept in. So I'm going to have to clear out some of the things I was planning on doing with my money and not do them, and decrease the amount I was going to spend on certain things. In other words, the budget's got to be redone. So I've got another week. I'm going to wait and make sure nothing else changes again, and then we will redo the April budget. I need to call the place where I bought the tire and see if it's still covered under the road hazard warranty. I think it had a road hazard warranty on it. I need to check on that. Anyway, if that's the case, maybe I won't have to spend that money. I don't know. But I think that $200 for that tire is before installation and all of that too. So it's going to be more than $200. But anyway, so I have some expenses that are kind of unexpected that cropped up. And I don't have my backup emergency fund started building at all. So that's going to have to come out of other things. And one of the bills I was planning on getting caught up this month is not going to get caught up till next month. But, 'tis life, right? The best laid plans of mice and men. But it will happen. I can already tell. And it's going to be kind of exciting to be getting these things out of the way. And I have already figured out that I'm going to be able to get all of this taken care of without the second job and have ample budget to do a few things that I want to do, get some crafts. I'm not worrying about the no spend thing anymore. I realized that I just have to adhere to a budget and I'll be fine. So I'm going to take you guys along with me on that journey. And I will talk to y'all on the next video. It should be tomorrow. And these videos will improve. They'll get better and more organized. I have a plan for it, actually. But I think mainly I was kind of rambling on about the whys today and expectations of life as we get older. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.